And it looks like we are live for another one. September 27th. This is Ballers and Briefs.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
go. In the building.
So we have lots to talk about tonight. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift.
Played his best game because of her. Is she the
Yes.
magic? Do I need to date her? Somebody tell me.
I need to know because my man's jersey sales went up 400%.
Correct.
Literally just with Taylor Swift.
If one of
Isn't
us
that
bags her,
something?
does
400%.
the team go up 400%?
How crazy is that? How crazy is that?
It's just a touch of magic.
It is.
That's amazing. I mean,
The law firm, the stream, everything, 400% gains if I date her. I got y'all.
400%. Like that's ridiculous.
Whoa.
I mean, if he was
you
selling
couldn't
a million
make up those
jerseys,
returns. If someone told you they're gonna give you a 40%, a 400% return, something like that on the market, you know they'd be lying. Be like, man, that's a Ponzi scheme. That's a scam. Like, there ain't no way you're gonna get that.
Crypto scam.
This man got it. So I guess you can, double up, triple up.
and supposedly she's going to be there when they play the Jets on Monday night.
Oh, we
They
can
already
expect
even
another-
confirmed all of that, huh? Wow, that's crazy.
I just looked at that just before we started, and
Gotta
it's
like Kelce
nothing
in.
but Taylor Swift. And I love the memes like during the game the other night. It was all Philly fans are the only Swift and Kelce we care about is Jason Kelce and DeAndre Swift, which hell, that Swift combination is nasty in itself, I mean, that's 400% returns right there. I mean, DeAndre Swift went from the garbage to.
It's funny though. I know that a lot of people are talking about Swift, but it's funny because all of Kelsey's exes have been coming out as well about him. But I give it up to the man. He's got a pretty good collection of ex-girlfriends. I won't lie. So I mean, I can't knock that man's hustle. His game, it seems to be working. He's pulling models. Next, he moves up to a superstar singer. So I can't knock the hustle, man. I mean, much respect.
They're just gonna make a new love song if they split up. Is all it is.
Oh,
And
something
his
about
jersey
I heard
sales
a joke that the next Taylor Swift album is gonna be called Travesty.
And it's like that one song she had back in the day where where she's like the nerd or whatever, and she's like, you're the cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers or whatever. Well, then I saw something about you're the cheer captain and I'm in the suite with with his mom.
Screaming and cussing, by the way. So the mom probably pulled him to the side and was like,
She's violent.
I mean, my man's on every commercial. So, yeah, full returns.
There was also a conspiracy theory out that he supposedly does a Pfizer commercial for the government, and then all of a sudden up pops a new girlfriend, up pops a new, all this money starts to come in. You work for the government, they give you the plug. They might even.
That's not the case. Trust me. I'm looking for a government shutdown at 12:01 Eastern Standard Time on Sunday morning. Literally, I'm.
Oh gosh, that's
got my fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Working for the government.
I didn't even think about that impact.
Yes,
man. You better call up the House of Reps, man. Call up the House of Reps. Time to get the job done, Code.
Well,
gotta let them know
that we're non-essential. Space program is non-essential.
Off the Swift shit.
Wow.
Let's get to the football shit. Forget Taylor Swift.
We had to. I think every sports show has had to at least give a 5-minute segment to Taylor Swift. So I think it's only natural that we at least give her a little
all
5
Taylor
minutes.
Swift. I mean, I'm not a fan.
I don't have Kelce, and I don't have Kelce in any of my leagues, so I can't say from that perspective I'm benefited truly from the Taylor Swift effect. But I think I played him a couple of times in the recent draft, DFS.
I'm happy for Kelce. I don't care about her. If my man's happy, I'm happy for him. He's a goat. Nice
He
guy.
had that TV show like Find and Love for Travis Kelce or whatever it was. So yeah,
Did he? I
Yeah, I
missed that
forgot
one.
about that. I forgot
it was
about
like
that.
it was like his
Find
first
Love.
season or second season from with the Chiefs. Like the first year
Forgot
Patrick
about
Mahomes
that.
got there or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
So on
he's for the
to
guy.
on to other week 3 info.
How'd you guys'
Yeah, we'll start with
fantasy
saying
workout?
I was right that the Redskins were going to be some dog shit against Miami Dolphins. Let's go ahead and put that out there. I called that.
Well, the
Expect
Dolphins played the
nothing from-
Broncos.
I mean, the
Bron-
Redskins against the Bills.
yes.
Expect nothing from the Redskins moving forward until
Well,
they
we're not because they're not the Redskins. They're the
They
Commanders.
are the Redskins. They are not the Commanders, dude. They're even getting sued
Watch out,
right
Phil.
now.
Watch out, Phil. Watch
They're
out.
getting sued right now because they
We might
won't
have
change
some
their name back
activists.
to
We
the
might
Redskins.
have some activists.
Nah, that's the opposite. They're getting sued right now for not changing their name back to the Redskins by a chief tribe, claiming that the logo of the Redskins is an actual person, white calf or some shit, and they're demanding that the name be changed back to that to uplift that tribe. So it's actually the opposite.
Josh Harrison is in a
I
hard
grew
spot,
up
though. I
there.
think.
I get
There's
to
a
call
little
them the
legality.
Redskins.
There we go. Let's go. There's a
So
little
Redskins
legality.
suck. Don't expect nothing from them moving forward against any team until they prove otherwise. Called that. We also called a little bit of the Miami game. Said we liked it. People should focus it. Play it in DFS. Hopefully you
We
did.
didn't call 70
We
point.
didn't call 70 points
one
or
called that, yeah.
Hyon. However you
Did
say
anyone
that.
have? Did you have him or anyone have?
I had Mostert. I told Cody Mostert like the day we were
We went
locking
I
up.
Mostert.
remember you saying Mostert, but I didn't know if by chance someone also played A-Chain by chance.
I
Not
said
even the winning
something about
lineup.
him. I literally told Phil something about him because the other night when Salvin Ahmed went down, A-Chain came in, and Phil and I were
He
like,
brought him
okay,
up.
we were like, we weren't really sold that like this was going to be anything other than a 95% type
Correct.
share here with a rookie and Raheem Mostert, who is player of the week the week before, right? For the Dolphins. And then A-Chain comes in and just keeps toting the rock just like Mostert was. Like literally like the Denver defense just couldn't keep a Miami running back out of the end zone.
The Millie Maker lineup did not have A-Chain in it. So it just goes to show you if you were
Okay.
that guy who was trying to be different and
Yeah.
played both A-Chain and Mostert in the same lineup, you most likely would have won $1 million.
I mean, it was 50 points.
Yeah, it's been 90 at both of them. So you would add.
What do you guys think about A-Chain long term? Do
He's
you
a-
think it was just a kind of a lightning shot there, and that's
No.
it, or do you see? The
I don't think so
long-term
now because I mean, obviously, coming on Sunday, if we're going, let's just like a preview, kind of eyes forward into Sunday.
potential?
I imagine they're going against the Bills, but we saw the Bills get gashed by Brees Hall in Week 1, and we've seen upper tier running backs kind of gash them here and there, right? Like they're okay, they're up and down. I think they're going to be high owned coming this week. Don't you feel? I feel like though, like Mostert and A-Chain are probably going to be high owned, just because of people saw what they did and they feel like they are for people that are not super like aficionados or pros or whatever that aren't really paying attention to ownership projection, but people that think they know football are going to go in and say, "Oh yes, there was 90 points on the board between these two, 8 touchdowns. Let's get them in the lineup." And I think that's probably they got to come back down to earth, right? They have to. But I think that being
I
that
agree.
that offense, we see what Mike McDaniel has done in the past with Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, when they were all in San Francisco. It seems like that Mike McDaniel can make a turd and shine him up real nice and make him the slate breaker of the week. And
I
we've
mean,
seen it multiple times.
I would expect, in a way to answer your question, that you can expect that he would get a good percentage of snaps moving forward. Because he's also a different type of runner than Mostert. He's a completely different back. I would see him more as like a third down back, and Mostert remaining his role kind of like the old, Chubb and Kareem Hunt type roles, where Mostert would resume like the Chubb type run, and A-Chain would resume like the Kareem Hunt type moving forward. I do agree with Cody that exposures are going to be elevated, but I don't think A-Chains will be elevated too much because people will realize that, like Cody's saying, it's going to come back down to earth, and there's no way they do that again. And that's more likely true than not. And with that said, you may not be able to expect much out of A-Chain moving forward in that aspect, but if he is lower owned, he may be getting the passes and the type of possessions that we saw from Kareem Hunt back in the day, which makes him a good DFS play for DraftKings. I think moving forward, he's a bad play for FanDuel because I don't think you'll expect that level of touchdowns again. But the kid's got moves. He's a beast. I think you can expect to see him continue to get a larger amount of the snap share moving forward.
I just think McDaniels is going to get him on the field. In a Jerick McKinnon type fashion, maybe and I say that in a I heard a reference the other day that he was kind of like a poor man's Jerick McKinnon. I think now Jerick McKinnon is a poor man's Devon A-Chain, right? Like now in this point,
A-Chain's a beast. He showed that.
Yeah.
We saw
him at Texas A&M, Brad. We saw him at Texas A&M. He was good. He was just a product.
I still don't think that Jimbo Fisher has really gotten the best out of Texas A&M players since he's been there. That's just my personal opinion from watching them. They seem to progress a little bit better when they kind of get into new systems and kind of better schemes.
But I think that to answer kind of like more or less to answer your question, I think that it's going to dip. Because for the simple fact of the matter is people are going to try to – they have tape on him now, right? Like you always say, no tape, they're going to – there's nothing to defend, right? There's no tape. And he's been hurt. So we thought, okay, he's just going to come in as a low-end running back for this team. And we didn't expect 70 points, right? But Salvin Ahmed, I don't feel like is going anywhere. I don't feel like they're going to just okay, bro – you were hurt for 1 week. You're out of here, right? I don't feel like that's going to happen.
I think he takes that role for sure. I think he steps in front of Ahmed after.
Well, I'm just saying that I don't want to say that he's been anointed. That's what
I don't think it's anything to do with tape either. The kid was breaking tackles, 3 or 4 people tackling him, break him. He was jumping over people after that, breaking them. It was maybe a poor tackling on Denver, but also extreme give it all I got hustle coming out of this kid to where he couldn't be stopped. And because of that, I think you see him elevate up, like I said, to a higher snap count share on the field. He's going to be out there more, but I don't think you see another 4 touchdown game out of him anytime soon. But,
and then Jeff Wilson comes off of IR in week 5.
So, for instance, even from a season-long perspective, Cody, with our leagues, for instance, I've been running Dalvin Cook out in my 12-man league for the last couple of weeks, and the returns have been minimal at best. Maybe 5 points here, maybe 9 points there from a fantasy points perspective. A handful of touches in a crowded backfield with the Jets. If I had a chance of getting him, now I believe he is sort of owned by someone else in the league. Would you, for instance, play him over a Dalvin Cook or sort of the lower end running backs in the leagues?
At this point, I think I'm taking a flyer on him. Personally, I grabbed him off the waiver wire in half PPR, and I think I'm going to run him out. I got to run him. It's either him or Bijan and James Cook. So those are the 3, right? So it's I'm obviously going to keep Bijan because we know Bijan is Bijan, right? But A-Chain or James Cook. So it's kind of which one do I feel like is going to do better week to week from here going forward? Because they both have. I'm just gonna matchup play him. I think it's matchups at this point.
Do you think there's a chance he gets traded or somebody else from Miami's backfield gets traded to free up and make the role clearer back there, or he goes to another team that needs a running back like him.
I don't think A-Chain's not going anywhere. A-Chain is a rookie. They drafted him.
Maybe they get rid of Salvin. Yeah, get rid of him.
Ahmed, I can see maybe
going on back there, right? It'll free up space for him. So maybe at least you should grab him off the waiver wire and hold on to him.
He's hardly
available at all now
in the season long. I would assume that would have drove most people to that waiver wire to grab him in most leagues. But
he went up 53.5% today.
Okay.
He went from he went up 53.5% ownership. So he's like 72.7. It's got to be like small leagues. That 28%, the 28% that he's not owned across ESPN is got to be the fact that it's got to be 8-man or less. Yeah. There's no way. There's no way that a 10-man, especially PPR league, doesn't have him rostered. Even if you're just putting him on the bench. If you're going to put him on the bench. If I was in a super flex league, yes, I'm running him out there. He's a third running back. I mean, dude's he's talented. So I think that's good. But like I said, I could be also a product of that Denver is just garbage and someone needs to get fired in Denver. Like literally Denver.
We know it's not Sean Payton, so
I don't know, man. I just feel like
he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. If he can't save them, they can't be saved.
They're
got to come from somewhere else.
That was awful. I mean, I felt like Mike McDaniel should have. He had a revenge game. Like I told you guys the other night that he was a ball boy for the Broncos back in the 90s.
And they didn't offer him a job opportunity.
They didn't even let him come for an interview.
So he gave them the biggest D he could give them.
Like literally did not even let the man come for an interview.
I'm telling you, I saw memes where he was calling play. He was letting fans call plays.
Yeah, that was like some guy dressed as him in the stands, but that was funny.
Calling play. He's like, go ahead, just read one off the board because anything's working right now. Anything we do works. Like for real, there was plays where Tyreek Hill was literally wide open. We thought, I mean, this was something I was wrong about. I thought Tyreek Hill was going to be contained by Pat Surtain, and maybe they lock him down because Waddle's out. So I was definitely wrong about that. I take all responsibility on that. But off the jump, Tyreek Hill's wide open, touchdown. Like the only guy you need to cover is wide open.
Seemed like they kind of let the game go. But it's kind of shocking from the NFL because you usually don't see that. It almost felt like watching a high school game more than it felt like an NFL professional game. You see that a lot of times in high school. You know, a team will put up that type of level of
it's like Oregon playing against
inferior opponent.
It's just absolute domination. I mean, I was even watching highlight clips of Tyreek Hill running routes against the guy that was covering him, and it was like embarrassing. It was like that dude was lost. The dude's running upfield, and Tyreek Hill's already cut this way, and he's waiting on the ball. And the dude's 10 yards upfield, and he turns around, and Tyreek Hill's got the ball coming upfield already. And it's like, what are you doing? Why? I don't know why Pat Surtain wasn't on him. I don't know what their plan was. Maybe I have no idea. It just like they threw. And they literally threw the game. They were like, "Oh, we lost. Do what you guys want to do. Go have fun."
I mean, it's fun. We say that with the fact of that Russell Wilson also did throw for 306 yards. Like literally, we're glossing over the fact that Russell Wilson threw for over 300 yards in that game, and that's how bad. That's how bad they got their asses kicked. Like,
watching the game, though, while Russell did throw for 300, I mean, I would have to double check to see how much of that was truly in sort of garbage time in comparison to when the game was actually close. It just seems like, from a scheme perspective, Russell is still trying to kind of better understand what Sean Payton is trying to run. I kind of thought that Russ would fit in the same way that Drew Brees fit into Sean Payton's scheme, and that it would just work beautifully. You would see guys running wide open, but it's just not the same thing. And I'm not even seeing the same sort of formations and things sort of more under the center that Drew Brees was getting more of the 3-step, 5-step, 7-step type drops. You're not seeing that with Russell Wilson. And so I think from some perspectives, Peyton may be a little bit limited in his play calling, more calling, shotgun, things like that to better put Russ in a better position. But overall, I think that's actually hurting the team. A lot of times that Broncos' best run plays, at least throughout the years, were more so under the center and those outside zone plays with Clinton Portis, going back to the Mike Shanahan days, and he would run 1,000-yard running backs in and out. But you're just not seeing that same level of production. But I think that offensive line isn't bad there. So it just goes back to, I just think that they got to get the coaching together.
I've done nothing but lose since I've been here. Like, literally, their left tackles.
He said that, dude. I felt so bad.
Yeah, he's like, I've done nothing but lose since I've been here. Like
7 years of losing, dude.
I felt like dude was overrated when they drafted him anyway. But yeah, so like he's like, yeah, I've done nothing but lose. I lost that ACL last year too. Like I think he tore his ACL last year too. So.
I believe it was last year.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that kind of moving a little bit forward.
Manning and they couldn't win, right?
They won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning,
and they went to another one, I think, right?
They lost. They went to the first one, lost to the Seahawks. Russell Wilson Seahawks, the Percy Harvin run back game, where Malcolm Smith was the MVP of that Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, 2 interceptions, I think.
Yeah, and that was like pure dominance by Legion of Boom in that game. Put
That's great.
Peyton Manning and the crew to sleep early, and then the next year is when, actually, I think we were all together. We watched Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl 50. It was maybe Super Bowl 50. Maybe it was all of us together. I can't remember. But anyways, it was Carolina and Denver.
Yeah, I hated seeing that.
Yeah, and it was Peyton Manning and Von Miller putting Cam Newton in his place. So.
That was a crazy game.
Go defense.
But speaking of Denver, I think they get back on track. Sean Payton gets a little revenge in his own story this week against Chicago. He goes in. You guys remember the Scabs, like in the strike? What was it, 83 or whatever it was? Coming out of Eastern Illinois. Sean Payton comes in as a quarterback for the Chicago Bears. There you go. There's your trivia for the week.
Yeah,
I think it was 83 or 84, whatever.
That trivia one.
I didn't even know Sean Payton played in the league.
He was a scab replay. Y'all seen that movie, The Replacements, Keanu Reeves? That's literally something that really happened in real life. And Sean Payton was a scab. Yeah. During the player strike.
Have to keep that in mind.
He was on the Chicago Bears. Yeah, so gets a little revenge in his own way, and I think that they make Justin Fields suck eggs. So
he is another person I was wrong about, man. He absolutely shit the bed again. Like, when are we gonna see the Justin Fields that we saw last year?
It took about till week 4 last year to do it. So
I worry though. I think when you take enough hits, I think the body, you start to those hits start to log in, and so you get tired of going to the ice rack after the game trying to run it for run around like that. I just think that it's starting to get to him this second season. You start to get a little gun shy too. There are sometimes where there are receivers open, and he's just not even getting those easy plays. And so that's when you really start to worry about it overall. And they put a lot into that offense this offseason. I kind of thought there would be a lot more with the addition of DJ Moore. I believe they brought in another Chase Claypool the year before. But they have done some things to try to give him some weapons. And I thought there would be better progress this first year.
Is Robert Tonyan does he even exist? Like, he's on that team.
This is also what happens when you draft the Ohio State quarterback, right? But I guess you guys lucked out on the Texans side because they were.
I could totally. I'll go to the altar right there and say I was fucking wrong.
So I mean,
the
it's still
most
kind of
Ohio
early,
State
but
quarterback ever.
wow,
I might be wrong.
I didn't
I
see that
might
Sunday sitting on the couch watching them get you just
300
beat up
over
the
300.
Jaguars.
I think he's
So
Yeah.
beat. I think they tried in the offseason to teach him to stand in the pocket more and deliver the strikes instead of running it. And now
yeah,
he's like torn between this new person that he's trying to be, and it's fucking him up. He doesn't want to
yep,
run when he wants to run because he wants to throw and make them happy, and then he just
yep.
bombs the whole play by doing that. And he's just
I just think
fucking it up.
his offensive coordinator is getting plays off of a Cracker Jack box or something because it doesn't
It's also him though, right? I watch him not run when he has a clear opportunity to run. He's like, bro, go, like go, and he doesn't. He holds it and he gets sacked, and I'm like, that's where I'm seeing like I'm torn. Like somebody's telling him deliver the strikes and stop running, and now he's trying to do that and he's fucking up. And I guarantee he's going to the sideline. He's like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying not to run and blah blah blah. And they're like, you got to figure it out, bro, because you're fucking shit in the bed. And I think it's him. I agree with you. The play calls are fucking terrible sometimes too. I'm like, what are you doing? But most part, it's him.
He's a running quarterback, and I hate to harp on this. Right? That's what I'm saying. He's a running quarterback, and I hate to harp on this, but I'm gonna go back to the thing. Like, he's got a defensive head coach. Like, I don't. And if you have a defensive head coach, you have to have an exceptional offensive coordinator. Like, literally thought it wasn't going to work here in Houston. I'm going to be honest. I love DeMeco Ryans. I didn't think it was going to work. But Bobby Slowick is showing that even though we're just having growing pains, right? Like, we're having growing pains, but the offense is working. And the defense is not terrible either. It's just that, okay, we're growing. We're just a really young team.
Beat the Jaguars with 4 starting offensive linemen out. I would say that you guys are doing a pretty good job.
Cody called that too, baby. We said CJ Stroud, baby.
The quarterback trouble, man. Talking about league-wise, Trevor Lawrence has been the biggest crapshoot I have ever been a part of in my life. Like, Phil has put the voodoo, juju, whatever you want to call it, on it. I mean, it's like
sucks.
He has not gone over 20 fantasy points this season, and he barely did it a couple times last year. And I had all the faith in the world for him, but like I have done everything I can to try to pick up CJ Stroud. Like, literally to pair him with, I picked up Tank Dell off the waiver wire and had Nico Collins too, and I'm like literally trying all I can. Somebody wanted me to trade Amon-Ra St. Brown because they knew that I want CJ Stroud. They asked me for that, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? He's the only constant I got on my team. Like, I can't rely on Jamar Chase. Can't rely on anyone else. Trevor Lawrence is just getting cooked every week."
You can find somebody that's his height, his weight, that can do better than him at quarterback who's never even played football. The dude could not hit an open target to save his life, man. He does nothing good in that pocket, ever. I called it before week 1. I called it in week 1. I called it in week 2. I called it in week 3. Yeah, I'm starting to see he sucks. And Jags will go nowhere as long as he is their quarterback. He might have a game.
You're hurting Brad's feelings over here. I can see it.
Not at all.
He will have a good game or two. That's it.
When I watched the Kansas City game, I walked away from it and I said, man, I think our quarterback cost us the game. And then the next week, I looked at it. I watched the film. Not watched the film. I don't have the film, but I watched the game. And again, I walked away and I said, man, based off of what I'm seeing, I believe our quarterback cost us this game as well. But then when you listen to the people who, the Tony Basellis on some of our local talk radio here, after looking at the film, they would say, oh, well, he has poor offensive line play. Oh, well, he has receivers dropping passes. Oh, well, he has a fullback on special teams run 100, a 90-yard kickoff return back. But again, I'm still in the same boat in the sense, Phil, that I believe that Trevor Lawrence has cost us football games through bad play. But I believe that it's still, I still am a believer that it can be turned around. I'm still thinking about, what I saw, the chemistry between him and Calvin Ridley in that first game against the Indianapolis Colts. That gives me a little hope that maybe they can kind of replicate this against a defense that isn't as strong on the defensive line, that maybe will have that sort of opportunity to kind of showcase more of the skill that he was able to show sort of those last 7 or 9 games. But it's definitely safe to say that he's been playing inconsistently. And so, maybe you do get a 7-game stretch where he plays, exceptional. But when you drive someone number one, you want them to be the franchise quarterback. You want exceptional play every day. We want Mahomes, right? You want Mahomes. You want a guy that's going to come in, be a superstar, lead your team to a championship. You want Burrow, same thing. As soon as he has a full season,
he's not even like
Burrow's.
I mean,
so that's the part that's been a little frustrating as a Jags fan, is that I just was hoping for a little bit more this sooner. Just to really that.
I agree that undeniable.
I was looking for a little more Justin Herbert than I was. I'm seeing more like Baker Mayfield style play, but I was thinking I was going to get Justin Herbert. So that's where you get a little frustrated. And I'm not even saying that Baker Mayfield's a bad player. I'm saying that Baker Mayfield has just over the years been inconsistent.
He's subpar.
You don't want an inconsistent quarterback if you drafting him one.
If you want I could
see them thinking he was top 3. Like Trevor Lawrence was going to be top 3 quarterback. I'll go out on a limb and say that. I literally thought he was going to be top 3. Now he is. Every week he seems to slide down my ratings by about 3 to 5 places. So like he was about 3rd coming into the season, and then he went to about 6, and then he went down to 9. He's around between 9 and 10. I could think of 10 better quarterbacks at this very moment that I would want on my fantasy team. I'm just saying on my fantasy team for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay says it.
I mean, because you can speak the best about it, Cody, because you've had him in one of our leagues, right? You have.
He's my 12-man quarterback. Yeah.
Jay gave us a stat: 37 games, he's went over 300 yards 6 times. That's fucking horrible. We just glossed over Russell Wilson went over 300.
I would want to look at the stats actually against comparison to Lamar Jackson, because it's interesting, because their passing numbers probably would be the same as far as for over 300 yards.
Lamar Jackson guy,
but the Lamar Jackson would give you at least exactly. I was going to say was that Lamar Jackson though would still give you 1,000 on the ground or whatever, 700 yards a year on the ground. Whereas you don't see Trevor Lawrence running, when I believe that there are opportunities for him to run more, but he chooses to stand in the pocket too long, get sacked. Then we blame it on the offensive line and say, oh, well, they weren't doing enough. But technically, when you go back and look at it, you should have escaped out of the pocket.
Okay, here's a perfect comparison, right? Let's just do Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Jalen Hurts against Tampa, 277 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Okay, passing. 10 attempts for 28 yards and a touchdown rushing. Okay, he had 19.88 points. Okay, Trevor Lawrence had 279 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. 3 attempts at rushing for 12 yards, 14.36 points. Okay? Yep. So there's your difference. Your rushing touchdown, right? That's in I would say Jalen Hurts is top 5 quarterback in the league at this very moment.
One was prime time though. I think that makes
no. I'm just saying this week particularly. I mean, you could go back to. I mean, Jalen Hurts played Tampa, had a subpar game, like a couple like interceptions that he shouldn't have thrown in the first place.
And also asterisk by that game, because they were saying that Jalen Hurts also had the flu. He played with the flu during that Tampa Bay game and still put up a better performance, it seems.
How about those Cardinals is right
than it was against it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Drew. Drew here is a Cardinals fan, and I know for a fact. Speaking of Cardinals, get your fucking guy Josh Dobbs a jersey. Your team is garbage because your quarterback has to go into the team store today to buy his mom or dad, whoever he was buying a jersey for. He was going to go buy him a jersey, and the damn team store didn't even have his number 9, or his name in the jersey machine. I was like, how terrible is that?
He's even got to buy it. Like, y'all ain't giving out jerseys to the fam? Like, I'm on the team.
That is
Did my
good.
mom get a jersey?
I don't know if he had to pay for it or whatever, but I don't know if he had to have it made or whatever. But in the machine, he literally did not have a Josh Dobbs jersey. And I was telling you guys earlier, they should be 3-0. I'm gonna say that the Cardinals should be 3-0. Literally, all one possession ball games on an average of 5 points. 5 points.
It's been interesting the Cardinals because everyone's just basically assumed that they were tanking for Caleb Williams, but that team does not look like a tanking team to me.
I honestly think
not
Caleb
playing
Williams
across the board. I know we're talking about Dobbs, but I think in that last win, that was across the board when their defense played really good as well.
Is Murray coming back?
Team.
He's supposed to. He's supposed to.
If he comes back, man, that team, I think he's good. So, I mean, there you go. I think Murray's good, and I think Lawrence is trash.
I think the jury's still out for Murray, but we'll see.
But I'm saying, I think that Jay's salty here because his Cowboys got beat by the Cardinals. So yes,
they got hit by the Cardinals.
Yeah,
I think
Dak Prescott is not it. Your defense is nobody without Trayvon Diggs. Like, you have Micah Parsons, yes, but he's not. Micah Parsons is not the best defensive player in the league. TJ Watt showed me that man single-handedly can win ball games. Like, literally, he single-handedly beat Cleveland the other night, and then TJ Watt's better. I'm sorry, but he's better.
It just shows the parity of the NFL. It shows you that the parity of the NFL and that any team can lose on any weekend. You can't just show up. And I think a lot of that happens with the Jaguars. I think all of the expectations going into the season was about, being potentially a number 2 overall to kind of host playoffs and things along those lines. Those expectations are heavy. And then also you start reading your clippings and you think you're better than, and so you don't even have to go that hard in practice or in the film because you could just show up and win. But this is the NFL. These are professionals who are scheming up, watching film on you all day and night. And so it just, again, goes to show you that if you don't show up, you can lose. If you throw picks,
exactly.
Prescott did right at the end there. That's a different game if he gets that touchdown. So, right there at the end when the guy picks it off to kind of seal that game. And so it just goes to, again, show you that it's any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday. That's true.
Titans should trade for Trey Lance. I don't. Titans have what, like 17 quarterbacks on their roster?
When does Anthony Richardson come back?
I think he's questionable for this week, so that he should.
Man,
I think that he's going to play. I think he'll play this week if he comes out of concussion protocol.
He's good fantasy-wise. He's putting numbers up. He was about to break the slate the other week before he got injured. So my man had more points in the first quarter.
If he could,
some quarterbacks finished after their whole game.
Stay healthy. If he could play a full 4 quarters.
That's the question. Running quarterbacks, always the question is if, because they take a lot of beatings.
And Anthony Richardson he's trying to be too much Cam Newton and not enough Michael Vick, if that makes any sense.
Or not enough Russell Wilson, because I think that Russell Wilson has that knack for being able to slide.
That's what I was saying. Michael Vick needs to be ginormous hit.
Slide. Like, you're a big guy, but you don't have to run everybody over every play. Get your 10, slide, get back up, go to the huddle, and you can get more down the road. But if you just try to run through safeties and linebackers, it's just not going to work in the NFL. They're just too.
It's a chisel, man. Like, you're getting
Russell Wilson stopped running the ball too, though. That's another one that's someone fucked with his game, and now he's not playing himself, or he got opportunities to run and get the first down, and instead he's throwing 40 yards downfield. Like, bro, you ain't never been able to hit that pass. Fuck are you doing? You were always clutch at making it look like you were going to do that and then fucking running and getting 15 on the ground.
Yeah.
Now
100%.
he's not doing that no more. It's like, well, what the fuck just happened?
And we are. It's the scary thing is they all running quarterbacks can't be Josh Allen. Literally, I swear, Josh Allen takes hits and just like he gets better. The more vicious hits he takes, the better he gets. Like I feel like he like is like.
That's what some football players say though, that they need that contact in order to get into the feel of the game. I remember Tim Tebow, Florida Gator, great, used to say that he needed that first bit of contact before he could really feel himself really playing football. So I think that's a little bit of Josh Allen. He likes to have those QB runs in there early just to get juiced up, get going, and then he plays a lot better. I think all the time when he's more getting those design quarterback runs, the games work out where they blow teams out. It seems like when he starts to just sit in the pocket, that's when you see the team is closer games because he's not using the fullness of his ability.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question that Drew Davis brings up too. Has Russell played his way out of the Hall of Fame?
What up, Drew?
Maybe. He's going that way. He's shit last year. He's shit this year. If he doesn't do something, then I would say
is Russell
not in this day and age. Not in this.
Everybody,
day and age,
it's kind of one of those things. Like, I know Drew on a personal level, so him and I have had this conversation once or twice before about other quarterbacks, but I don't know if we've talked about Russ or not, but I don't see as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't think so. Like I literally don't think so. He's won one, lost one. Actually, yeah, won one and lost one, right? I don't think that they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead, Brad. I was just saying, like I was about to say that Legion of Boom helped him a lot. So,
yes, I think that due to his longevity in the league, due to the fact that I probably see him getting into some sort of broadcasting job afterwards, and it seems like when they get in those broadcasting jobs, they almost always get voted into the Hall of Fame a lot earlier than the guys who just kind of go away. Those guys don't necessarily always get that fame, get that recognition. But again, I believe because of what he's done for the league from a role model standpoint, from a professional standpoint, those things start to add up for the voters. We have to understand that these are still human being voters, and so they're not necessarily going to vote just off of the statistics themselves. A lot of that name recognition helps to carry you over the board as well. And I just think that, again, because of his longevity, what he's done in the league for as long as he's done it for, they're going to give him the nod based off of longevity, most likely. He's probably going to play another 2 or 3 more years, maybe even more. So I mean, that's how long would that? That's
he's our age, right? Isn't he like 34?
I think he's a little bit older than us.
35 tops. 35 tops,
he's
right?
Years older than us. I think he's. So I would say he probably still runs it at least another 3 more years. And so again,
like
because
he's
of that,
he's a Goodell. Him and Roger Goodell are big friends. So I think that. I mean, obviously we've seen Super Bowl
connections. I just
34. Okay, there you go. So he's all right.
I just can't see him not. With at least one Super Bowl, I just can't see. And he got to another.
And he beat Peyton Manning in a Super Bowl.
So did Drew Brees?
Yeah, but Drew Brees is going to be a Hall of Famer. If he's not, then
he's a GOAT. He holds records, man.
Yeah, that's no question.
That one's no.
He's eligible. I think he should be. He should be coming up eligible within a couple more years. So yeah,
I'd like to see Drew come back as a coach, man. Or isn't he commentating, or wasn't he commentating?
He was, and then he decided against it. Like he was with NBC one season, and then they traded him in for. What?
I believe there were some differences in regards to things that are separate from the on-field stuff. That were being pushed at
traded
that
him
time.
in for
and
McCourty.
So he didn't want to
last year or the year before. So
I think
Yeah.
it was last year. I don't remember. Time
Or maybe
flies.
the year
so
before.
fast,
I think it may have been the COVID.
It was
Was it the
last
COVID
year.
year, maybe? Oh,
I
last
think it
year?
might have been
Okay.
last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. We could talk about this big game tomorrow.
Let's move into old fashioned get smash mouth football. Everybody thinks is one of the greatest rivalries ever. Detroit versus Green Bay.
Because don't they play every Thanksgiving against each other too?
Well, Detroit always plays on Thanksgiving.
Detroit always plays. I know Detroit definitely plays the
I
that
mean,
early
it's
morning.
that old fashioned going back to when the NFL started, when obviously no one existed on earth but teams from Michigan and up north, Chicago. Like literally, it was just a Midwestern sport. So,
Aaron
Jared
Rodgers
Goff,
isn't there anymore, so I guess that little beef is died down a little too. But wasn't there like a stat that like Detroit has never beaten Green Bay?
well, no,
Rodgers is
Detroit
quarterback
beat
in their state?
Detroit, but
They
kept
beat them last year in Lambeau.
out of the playoffs, right?
Or if it wasn't
That,
in
was
Lambeau,
that
I
the
know they
Kings
won.
stat?
I know they beat them to stop them from going to the playoffs last year.
Yes. So that was
Stop Rodgers from going to the playoffs.
It might have been the stat breaker right there. Instead of the slate breaker, we had a stat breaker. But I mean, the last two times these teams played each other, it wasn't much scoring. 36 total points. January 2023, that's the one you're talking about where they stopped them going to the playoffs.
yeah.
And in 2022, they had a game that was 9-15. Before that, there was some.
They know each other so well.
But yeah, so
This is a division opponent. They know each other so well.
and Detroit's defense looked good. Who'd they just play? I was just bitching about
The
it.
Falcons.
Yeah, I was just bitching about it.
Aiden
The
Hutchinson
Falcons
had
couldn't
like 2
score on them,
sacks.
dude.
I think Aiden Hutchinson had 2 sacks in that game.
Yeah, I was like, how does Atlanta go out and like shit all over Carolina, a division rival with a pretty good
Detroit's
defense,
beat them the last
move
3
the ball?
times. Detroit's
Yeah.
beat Green Bay the last 3 meetings.
Yep. Nah,
So
they
with
won
the-
59
So
to
Phil,
20
with
to
the
15.
points being a little bit lower, do you like this matchup from a daily fantasy perspective?
I mean, it's going to be the only game tomorrow, so we have to focus it. If it was on
Showdown
it was on a
game.
main slate, I wouldn't be looking at it, especially after watching Detroit's defense against Atlanta.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I
solid
mean.
as fuck.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, though, we're taking this game as the Showdown only game on the
Yeah.
slate. I like pieces of it for sure. I like
Okay.
Detroit's defense as one of those pieces. Not only because of how good they played and how good they've been playing this year, but there was something where Detroit's defense shows up in the flex, 20% of the time on their showdowns. I thought that was a pretty good stat. So thinking like that, I was like, I'd like to have their defense. And, a lot of my lineups tomorrow, I might go over the field on that, maybe 30% of my lineups. If I'm doing a 20 max, I think that's like 6 lineups or so. At least have their defense in the flex.
With the injuries, that's kind of showing up with it looks like I think Bakatiari, the starting tackle for Green Bay, is going to be out. Christian Watson potentially still is recovering, I believe, from a hamstring injury.
I think he's going to play.
Who are you liking tomorrow? Is Christian
I think
Watson going to play? Because I thought I showed him as questionable the last.
he's questionable, I
questionable.
think, but I think
Okay.
I think it's like an optimistic that he's gonna play. Yes, thank you. If he plays, that changes a lot.
Yeah.
It also depends on, I worked so late today, I didn't have time to like look at his practices this week. If anybody knows if he practiced it in limited fashion or not, but I'd pay attention to if he practiced in full capacity this week, leading into this game, I would have a better understanding what's going to happen. But it kind of hurts players like Jordan Reed and Romeo Dobbs, however you want to say it, if he plays. But I still like somebody like Jordan Reed as the punt play, not necessarily
Jaden Reed, Gerard. What is it?
what is something Reed, Jay Reed, whatever his name is. I still like Reed as that play that could get you there on a bomb. As your low, sneaky in play, I still like somebody like him. I would lose all interest in Romeo just from the perspective that I think he only does good when Watson is out. If Watson's in, it hurts him.
Because it was interesting you say that, just because I was looking at some of the stuff on Dobbs, and I see that in 2 out of the 3 games, he's gotten at least over 17 points for fantasy wise. And in his last game, he had about 12 targets. The other 2, I believe, 5 and 6 targets. So he is seeing a comfortable amount of targets.
Watson's out.
It makes, yeah. And I get what you're seeing, though, with
I
the
want to see him
Watson.
out, yeah.
Yeah, I can see then that kind of eats away those sort of more possession style, maybe not so much of the bomb plays, because I don't really think I've seen sort of that out of Dobbs' play. He's more of an intermediary route guy.
If Watson is out, trust me, I'm in on Dobbs. I think, like you said, he gets good target share. He's getting the points. It's the target share really that you want, especially on DraftKings, especially on Showdown.
Yeah.
Them points, 15 points is massive on a Showdown slate for a player, especially a wide receiver without a touchdown. If he gets that touchdown, now you're elevated and he's a must-have. But if Watson is in, I think it literally destroys his chance at that expectation of targets that he's usually seeing. I think he's still going to be.
The only thing is the only rebuttal I'd have to that is because we have not seen Jordan Love and Christian Watson on a massive scale, right? Like we saw them the 1 or 2 games that Jordan Love, maybe 4 games last season, right? Maybe whatever it was. We're in the 4th game now, and the 3rd. This is to be the 4th one. We've just gone 3 without him, right? With Jordan Love. So, I mean, Jordan Love has gone 245 for 3 TDs week 1, 151 for 3 TDs in week 2 against Atlanta's defense. And then week 3, 259 and 1 touchdown against Phil's Saints, right? I mean, literally they Jordan Love and he's rushed for 39 yards on 9 attempts. So I think that there's a possibility that we could get both. And this is just me trying to get, like, we always talk about getting different. And I'm saying it could just be that one shot play, right? Like that one bomb that causes, and you're getting dump offs or whatever, all this work to one. And then you have that one of the 2, because people are thinking, okay, I got to fade one of the other. I mean, if you're in a 20 max or 150 max max entry, you got to get exposure to both of them. I'm not fading one over the other.
Correct.
I'm trying to get exposure to both.
I'm just gonna have exposure.
I may even have them both. If I'm running a Jordan, if I'm running a Jordan Love play, I'm trying to run both. Especially with depending on not knowing if Aaron Jones is going to be there, and I don't think Dylan is going to beat up on Detroit.
I think Jones is going to be in, and that hurts Dylan. To be honest, I don't want either one of them the way that they're splitting his backfield. If I had to choose, if Jones is in, it's definitely Jones for me. But
the interesting thing about Dylan actually is that I noticed that he had 11, 13, and I believe 15 touches, which is a healthy amount of touches, but there's virtually no production and virtually very few pass catching. So it's almost that you kind of
0 pass catching last week, by the way.
And that's the hard part to predict. But you would think with 15 touches that, the probability tells you one of those would get you into the end zone.
Though, and what are they going to be? Probably more than likely, the whole freaking offensive line there in Green Bay is not there. I mean, Bakhtiari's not. We know Bakhtiari.
I think the center's
out. Sure, it's not out. Is Bakhtiari for sure? Elgin Jenkins with the guard is out, and then questionable. A offensive lineman Zach Tom is questionable. So yeah, so you have 3 out of your 5 starters there that 2 are out and 1 is questionable. So I just don't feel like you're getting a push.
I feel like you just need to limit your exposure. You need to have a little bit, but it needs to be a little bit. I think this is definitely a slate where you can't be like, I'm just gonna put one lineup in, because you're not. If you're just putting one lineup in, it's too hard to gauge this matchup. And I say that for a number of reasons we just discussed, but also going back to like Watson's injury, not knowing how well he's practicing and things like that. Even if he plays, or even if Jones plays, it could be on a limited snap count share that we talk about, like we talked about before, where they're in on a limited number as opposed to like fully coming all the way back and taking over their role. And now they're limited. Now the other person, like Dubes, is limited because Watson's eating into some of the share, but not all of the share, and everybody's just getting little bits and pieces. It tells me that I think what I want most from Green Bay is maybe like kicker. I just want a kicker from them, and focus.
So you're looking at. So would that be considered like? Are you gonna run out maybe like a? I know sometimes we throw out some various different definitions: a 4-2 stack, a 5-1 stack, or what do you? Is that sort of where you're leaning more, sorts of a lineups like that, or?
Yeah, I mean 3-3 is like winning for some reason when these two teams play each other, but I think that has a lot to do with Aaron Rodgers. Being a 3-3 stack, it was like 38%, but 4-2 definitely in favor of Detroit.
A 4-2
was
stack.
like 40% with Detroit, but when they play each other, it came down, or when it averaged out, it came down to like 28%, being a 4-2 stack against them. But I think I'm gonna go heavy 4-2 Detroit, because I can't find a way where a 4-2 favoring Green Bay makes sense with these injuries, with the inability to tell who's going to be getting the target shares, how long someone's going to be on the field, how much they're limited, how bad are they still actually hurt. It's too gray of an area for me to feel comfortable building an outcome where 4 players from Green Bay do good. I just don't see that happening. So for that reason, I'm going to favor Detroit. But like I said, I'm going to have exposure like Luke Musgrave, and it's Jaden Reed, by the way, Romeo Dubes and Christian Watson. But I think out of my exposure to them, it's all going to be small. And I'll probably have more Watson than any of them if he is playing. I just trust him as he's just a better player. Regardless if it's a target share in the past or not, he's just better than them. But there's like a lot more exciting spots on Detroit. For example, Detroit's defense is in play, whereas I don't think Green Bay's defense is in play.
Your boy Sam Laporta should eat, because we've seen tight ends. We've seen your boy Laporta is probably going to eat tomorrow, I think, because we've seen the Detroit tight end tear up Green Bay's ass before.
Yeah, I've been calling Laporta all season.
Sides, I like both of these tight ends from a season-long perspective, and just kind of looking at the numbers that they're producing. If there are any sort of waiver wires out there where you could pick them up, or if you have them stashed on the bench, these might be sort of those weeks that you might want to take a chance if you don't have sort of those high-end, Kelsey's, that sort of a guarantee, Andrews. You might want to run these guys out here. I mean, just looking at some of the numbers here with Luke Musgrave, I believe that he's seeing a significant more target share. Has gone up week over week. In addition to even Sam Laporta, he's gotten 5, 6, I believe 11 targets. So you're seeing that trajectory like a stock. It's going straight up. That's what you like to see when you want to sort of land on that stock. It's the same thing I believe was starting to happen with these type of tight ends. You're really starting to see them kind of get fed a lot more by these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I've been calling Sam Laporta all season, by the way.
He was in the Millie last week.
Yeah. He was in the Millie lineup. You said,
yes, he was. He was the Millie tight end.
But with that said,
wow,
Detroit's tight end 1, which would be Sam Laporta, has shown up in the flex in the optimal lineup 0% of the time. With that said,
KJ Hawkinson.
Exactly, they did have Hawkinson. He showed up in the optimal as the captain 10%, but never in the flex 0%. With that said, their tight end 3, the third tight end on Detroit, showed up 20% of the time in the flex. I don't even know who the fuck that is on their team. My guess
for Detroit, the third tight end for Detroit.
My guess would be James Mitchell. I have no idea. But here's your here's your stats. This is why you tune in to Ballers and Briefs, because you're probably like, who the fuck's James Mitchell? I'm playing Sam Laporta. He's a GOAT. I'm putting him in the flex. And then James Mitchell comes in and gets maybe 2 fucking weird-ass touchdowns or some catches, and you're like, wait, who the fuck is this guy? It's tight end 3. Came in, broke the slate.
James Mitchell.
And we knew here that 20% of the time, tight end 3.
Is he a rookie this year, or has he been in the league?
I don't know if tight end 3 or if Brock Wright is tight end 3, but I believe Brock Wright is more of a
tight end
blocking.
2. According to the depth chart, James Mitchell is tight end 3.
That's who we need some exposure to. So everybody listening,
Out of Virginia Tech.
your exposure to James Mitchell.
Is he a rookie, Cody?
Or
has he been in the league?
It looks like it. No, he's not a rookie. He's not listed as a rookie on here.
Oh, okay.
Last year, maybe his first. Yeah, 25th round. Last year,
okay.
2020.
Last year, okay.
Get a little bit of exposure to him and understand why you're getting exposure to him. It's just because of that 20% number. It's a pretty solid number there to be, thinking about, and that's out of 20 games. So what is that? That's like four times. I think it's 4 times he's been in the optimal in the flex, tight end 3. So put him in 20% of your lineups. Can't hurt. If he hits, you got him. And you're not that guy sitting at home like, wait, who the fuck is that? Who just scored? I don't
So I know,
it.
Phil, you were saying that you were probably going to only want a little bit of exposure from the Green Bay side. What do you think about Jared Goff for Detroit tomorrow?
Yes, sir. I like him.
I got a few stats about Jared Goff against Green Bay.
I'll give one that's not necessarily Green Bay, but he's been in the flex optimal 79% of the time. So for that reason, I like him in my flex no matter what. I think I might be exactly at that number, like 80, 90%. I wouldn't mind if he was in almost all my 20 lineups, just because I think this game is going to play a little slower tomorrow. I've talked about it before. Green Bay likes to slow games down. They're very slow. Detroit's not necessarily high-paced unless they need to be. Their defense has been doing good. I could see it being low-scoring, but Jared Goff also just getting you there with maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns thrown and you just needing him in your lineup. And now Cody can bang with the stats.
So Jared Goff has a passer rating of 98.4 with 1,140 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in 5 games. That's almost 2 touchdowns a game.
I just said 2 touchdowns from him. You need him in your lineup. So,
there you go.
Literally.
It's averaging almost absolutely 2 touchdowns a game.
Yeah.
There's your answer right there. I mean, that paints a picture for itself. Jared Goff has to be in your lineup tomorrow. If you're playing a cash showdown, if you don't have Jared Goff in your lineup, you're going to lose.
And you just get more with him, right? You can pair Josh Reynolds with him, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You could even go Jahmyr Gibbs, which, I don't really say that with confidence, but I do believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is like more of the pass catcher, especially with Monty back. Monty's probably going to resume.
Questionable. Monty's questionable.
Another question.
He went through walkthrough today, but they haven't decided yet. And this is the thing: is Detroit also has a beat up offensive line. Okay, so Taylor Decker's beat up. For them,
the guard, I believe, is out, right?
Yeah, Matt Nelson. Actually, Matt Nelson, 1 tackle is out. Vaitai, the guard is out.
Yeah.
And Jason Kabinda, their fullback, is out. So there's not a lot to run blocks through the gaps there. Stretch plays, it might work, right? But gap play, it's hard.
Are we feeding running backs then is what it's kind of sounding like?
I was going to go this.
Or do you have to have some exposure?
If Monty's there, I think you have to have some exposure to him, just for the simple fact that Monty had, and this was with the Bears, right? Obviously, has 92 carries for 454 yards and 3 touchdowns in 7 games. So that's basically kind of like a half touchdown a game, roughly. he's got to be
Also-
some. You got to have some
Also,
exposure.
the NBA has allowed their opponent's RB1 to be the optimal captain, aka MVP, 30% of the time against them. So you have to consider Monty as a captain on DraftKings against Green Bay, even with that line the way it is. But, like Cody said, maybe alter your expectations. Don't go all in on Monty, but because that line's messed up. But how'd they do last week running? I didn't even pay attention to that. I just saw how good their defense was doing. And I know
I
it was
believe that
Gibbs.
last week Jamar Gibbs had 17 carries for 80 yards. I believe that works out to about 4-7 a carry. But it's just interesting that you just aren't seeing the sort of fantasy production that I was hoping to see from Jamar Gibbs over the last 3 games. I was hoping more of an Alvin Kamara of old type of a season for him, seeing a lot more production, catching the ball out of the backfield. But I just don't think he's earned that trust yet from Dan Campbell to get
He
those
only
type of
got
plays.
60% last week with only him playing. And then when Monty was in, he only got 45%. So if Monty comes back and he's playing, does that mean Gibbs is back down to a 40% and we can't expect much out of him? Or if Monty sits out, I think you run Gibbs with no worries, even though, like you said, it hasn't been like great from a fantasy standpoint, but on a showdown slate, that much attention to the ball, you need it on DraftKings. You can't overlook it and be like, I'm not going there.
I mean, even the running back, you say running back 3 for them, Craig Reynolds, went 4 attempts for 15 yards on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. 28% snap count share.
And then in week 2, he was 3 attempts for 7 yards. Those count, man. That's only a half a point, 1.5 points in both games. But
that brings up a sort of another question that I had, because I got a chance to kind of play DraftKings for the first time for all the listeners out there, kind of going through the process, setting it up, logging in.
Tell us about your experience.
Kind of adding the money in. But what I thought was really interesting was just kind of watching you guys set the lineups up. But that the user interface for the DraftKings, I'm not getting paid to say this, but it is a nice, it's a smooth process. You can get logged on very easily. You can easily sort of pick a lineup that you want to join, and then it's really easy to kind of scroll down the list and just grab the players that you want for that lineup. It even has a cool little options in which you can take that lineup that you submit and then submit it towards, if you wanted to put down 20, you feeling yourself, you want to put down 20 on the Millie Maker, you could just go ahead and kind of hit one button. It's almost like Amazon, man. You just hit pop and go. You hit one button and boom, it's on there. You can add it to multiple lineups. So it was definitely a cool experience in kind of building the lineups and trying to, better understand sort of what we're saying on here and what you're seeing as far as for the statistics on everyone. And also, you get your money on a little bit. You play a little bit of budget, a little bit, trying to stay within the budget. You must see your money around. I got my math on a little bit. I ain't going to lie. I'm like, I know I need another 2,400.
Like, a question I have for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like, since you've been baptized in the waters of daily fantasy, do you understand now where we're coming from when we talk about GPP? Because it seems to be what people don't understand. GPP and cash. That seems to be what makes people's heads want to explode. Like, what the hell? Why do you want to play? Why can't I just put the same lineup in both contests? So do you understand now where we say, hey, we want you to put this high-owned, all these players we expect are going to go off and they're going to be high owned. We want you to put this in a cash lineup, as opposed to we want to put this, what Phil calls turds, this lineup full of turds, this chocolate chip cookie over here in the GPP pool. Did you understand?
I think too, for the listeners, what I would recommend is when you join whatever, say you join the 70K sort of cash payout. Once you do your lineup, wherever you end up landing, go up to the top and then check and see that person who won, and kind of, because it allows a quick comparison. You don't have to do anything. You just click on that. It'll compare yours versus theirs. And for instance, in the ones where you were winning 70K, the only real difference in truly my lineup and their lineup was that they got better on their punt plays. You have to have your punt play hit in order to win the whole thing. What I mean by that is, for instance, they went with in I believe it was the Showdown with Las Vegas. I think it was Calvin Austin. That ended up having a really solid game, and I didn't have Calvin. I think I went with someone else. But that's the difference between winning like $5, I think I had one, to winning $70,000. You know, that's the difference, you know, and you just see it in, you know, $15,000 or $20,000, just understanding how to set your lineup with, in comparison to when you're doing a cash play, you going for the numbers. You have to have higher numbers in the cash plays. And what I mean by higher numbers for the fans or for the listeners is that, you know, you're having to get up over 100 plus points. You know, you want to tell yourself, hey, man, look, I need to get a little bit over 100 points, because it seems like for the lineups for me that hit, it was when they were getting over 100 points. As soon as you start landing in 70 and 80 points, that's just not enough. It's not going to get you there. And so, again, you have to kind of keep all of those types of things in mind. But again, a great tool to kind of go back, look at your lineups and compare them against to who won. You'll hear that what Phil and Cody are saying is exactly the truth on how you have to approach each different one. You can't play it all the same, because it's not going to run it for you the best. You have to get, as Phil say, you got to get different on that milli maker.
Correct. I mean, I agree with everything you said, even though I've been preaching it. I mean, it goes back to even agreeing with you on DraftKings interface. I mean, that thing is smooth. It's understandable. It's easy to follow. It's much better than FanDuel. And like you said, we're not getting paid to say that. So
I just want everyone to know we didn't get the plug. You know, it's not that. It's just, it's the truth.
Just better. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And he's right. You have to get different in GPP to win. And that's like things I was talking about a little bit ago. And I said, like, Jaden Reed would be my punt play. You know, things like that. I did have a shit ton of Calvin Austin. I had about 60% of him in 20 lineups, and I still didn't win the 70,000. And that's just because, like, you just need to continue to be different in other spots. Yes. And I just wasn't different in, like, the lineups that were competing for me, you know, had somebody else with a 0 in it, or, you know, I needed that other player that also did well, and I didn't have that exact match. And that's why I also say you can't just make one lineup, man. You got to have exposure out there and getting an attachment to a little bit of all these players, so that way you maybe do fall in on that perfect lineup where you have Austin and everybody else you needed to win all in the same lineup.
And I want to say one more thing also, in regards to captain. You have to you want to basically hit on your captain play. If you're gonna win it, you got to hit on your captain play. But you want to, as again, you want to get different in your captain play a little bit sometimes, because the moment that you do, that's going to maximize your points and make you different from someone who didn't put that person in the captain spot. So when you're building out that lineup, really think hard about your captain spot, but then also understand that there's the cash budget that you have, and so then how that might impact that cash budget. So you have to kind of constantly be working that as you work down your list, because you end up having to go back and kind of play the budget game a little bit to get the numbers to fit for you as well.
That's a good tip from Javad as well. When you're looking at the head-to-heads, if you're not creating your own head-to-heads and you're scrolling through the list that somebody to take, you know, there are badges on players that signify their experience level and their win amounts. If you see somebody with no badges, most likely they're a rookie, or like he said, they just saw a DK ad on, you know, TV while watching a football game, and they're like, oh, I know fantasy, let me get on here, and they put $20 on, they do the head-to-head.
It's a little different than league.
You just crack that ass.
And it's, yes, everyone, it's different than league. it's a lot
Free
different
money.
than league. You got to go into it with a different perspective. That's why I keep saying, please tune in, listen to what Cody and Phil are saying, the tried and true experiences that's happening, because it is a lot different than league play. You're taking a lot different things in consideration, as it's just one game. You're not necessarily concerning yourself with whole season play.
Phil,
Correct.
what is ownership projections? Can you see who's looking at coming in as the highest owned tomorrow?
Yeah, it's Amon-Ra, which
figured.
sucks because he's who
Yeah.
I wanted to lock in. But when Brad was talking about you have to get your captain right, he's correct. But you also you also want to hope or get different when you're picking your captain and hope
You said
that
that, yeah.
that they outshine the high owned. Like right now,
Mhm.
Amon-Ra's coming in as the highest owned. He's who I want. He's who I want to put there. He's who I feel safest putting there, and that's probably why he's coming in highest owned, because everybody wants to do that. But
Yep.
if he's the best captain, you have to be extremely different other places, which you can only do so much in this game slate. But you're most likely going to tie with a bunch of people. You're not going to make a lot of money. So in this case, I mean, I'd rather get different here. Take the risk. If I get different here and have a lower owned captain, if I hit, there's a higher chance that if I'm different, I get all the money, or I get a lot more money because there's only a few of us splitting this. So like somebody like Josh Reynolds right now, he's been absolutely more dominant than Amon-Ra every single game this season, except for maybe last week. And it was probably still close. And he's coming in at literally like a tenth of the ownership of Amon-Ra. Like if you want to get different, Josh Reynolds as captain right there. And
There
if
you
he
go.
pops,
You heard it first.
Henry, if you're listening, tell your girlfriend you should have played Josh Reynolds.
yeah, Josh Reynolds would have won you $1 million. I mean,
Tell your girlfriend she cost you
it
$1 million
cost you
bucks.
$1 million, man. It just makes me think of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. At the end of the movie, he's about to catch the bird, and then the eagle mascot scares him off, and he looks at him and he's like, "You just cost me 50 grand, man," because it was like a rare pigeon, and if you catch it, you can turn it in and get
Classic.
50 grand. Cost him money. Kenry's girl was the mascot and shooted the bird away. Cost Kenry 50 grand or $1 million. Cost him that money.
Not this time.
Yeah.
Not this time. We
What are you
learn.
talking
We
about?
all learn.
You're just talking about
we gonna make it work.
Amon-Ra. He's not had a great 4 games against Green Bay. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are seeing the fact that Jair.
Is that the Jair? I was gonna say that.
It's like the Jair Alexander.
He's probably out still, right? Is he
He's
out?
questionable. Alexander
Another
Jair is
questionable.
questionable. So he's
Alexander.
questionable. Yes. So with a back injury, but if he's there, I mean, he's literally Amon-Ra has only had 21 catches for 231 yards and 1 TD in 4 games. So it's not good. I mean, it's not really.
Jair
he's
is unstoppable, man.
Like I said, it's not that great, and Josh Reynolds is literally a tenth of his ownership and has been outperforming him. Could absolutely, be tomorrow's captain. I'm talking DraftKings, that is. Now, if you're on FanDuel, the best captain for you tomorrow is probably Golf. No shot, no
Because of the
doubt
touchdowns.
about it.
MVP, yes.
Yeah, he's most likely going to be your MVP on FanDuel, but that's another reason why I don't play Showdowns too often on FanDuel, is because there are a million people splitting.
Josh Reynolds, 5 catches for 60. This is not sexy numbers, but the TDs are. 5 catches for 69 yards and 2 TDs in 3 games. That's almost a TD a game.
If he does that in Showdown,
it's not sexy numbers. It's not sexy numbers. One reception on 2 targets the last game for 16 yards. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not sexy. It doesn't look cool on paper, but I mean, it.
Well, the thing though with division rivals, you usually see sometimes like a Josh Reynolds go off because of the scheme, because they know each other, and so they're gonna always, have a little bit easier time taking care of the number 1. And then that leaves open the number 2 to number 3. And so this could potentially be that type of a game as well. Just like you're saying, well, the previous game,
too.
It's prime time as well, short week. You're just trying to scheme some guys open. It's a little bit easier to scheme open the 2 and the 3 when they're not getting double teamed. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
just gotta look to get different, man. If you're thinking something safe or you like it a lot, it's most likely high owned. You just gotta start thinking different. What doesn't feel right is probably what does better. Like, for example, playing the tight end 3 from the fucking Detroit Lions over Sam Laporta, or even being unique and putting them both in the same lineup. You know, that would be extremely different where you have Sam Laporta and tight end 3 in the same lineup. Like, no one's going to be doing that. If you do that and it hits, you'll be most likely winning a lot of money tomorrow.
I mean, if you're, and just for this is full on knowing too much about football and packages and stuff. Thinking about this, no fullback for Detroit tomorrow. It's almost astronomical. It's just fathomable that you will have 2 tight ends at least on the field at all times. Because if there's no fullback, who's going to be on the field running a strong I formation or I formation, whatever, in 12 personnel 2, you're at least going to have 2 then, and you're going to have it in goal line formations. You're going to have a tight end as a fullback. So yes, what Phil is saying, it's very possible that's the Kyle Juszczyk. I'm going to keep using Kyle Juszczyk. The Kyle Juszczyk.
Exactly what it is.
But it's as a tight end because you're going to get he's a tight end, so he's not going to be registered as a fullback, right? So it's a tight end. So yes, I mean it's a flex on a showdown, but at the end of the day, he's a tight end.
And like Tommy said, rather look ugly and win than look good and lose. Like the lineup will be ugly. If it looks ugly to you, put that bitch in a GPP tournament. If it looks good to you, put it in a cash lineup, head-to-head, double up. That's a good way to look at it if you don't have access or can't find through your research like ownership projections that players are going to have. That's a good way to do it right there. If you got Amon-Ra, Jared Goff,
and you want
Gibbs, Aaron Jones all in one lineup,
we can reach out to us. Reach out.
Yeah.
Don't feel afraid.
Just to kind of break it down a little bit Phil, about what exactly the double up is. And explain to the listeners a little bit more about what the double up is, just to give them a little bit of understanding of sort of what they're looking at if you try to play a double up in comparison to if you're trying to play, those million makers. Yep.
So the double ups are tournaments where you don't have to beat out half the crowd. You literally only have to beat out 50% of the people in your money doubles, but it's the max payout. You're not going to win 10 grand in there. You're only going to double whatever your buy-in was. If you put in $5, you win $10. You put in $10, you win 20. But the reason that those are different from GPP is GPP pays the big prices, but they don't pay out 50% of the crowd. It's like, a fourth, maybe less sometimes, of the crowd gets paid out. So whereas your cash lineup might score, for example, 150 points and double up, and you made $10. That same lineup in a GPP tournament that scores 150 points on the same slate in the same day might not make a single dollar, not even a dollar made in the tournament. And you'd be like, what the fuck? It made $10 here. Well, you only had to beat out 50% of the people here. You didn't have to beat out 80% over here. And when you do in the GPP tournaments actually make it into the money with a lineup like that, you only win a little bit of money. You're like at bottom of the slate. You're winning $1 or $2 or $3, and you're like, oh, fuck is this? I made $2 on like a 50-cent entry, which, I mean, I guess is good on your money, but it's $2, right? You want to be different to where you're not that guy at the bottom of the money. You're the guy at the top of the money, and he's not playing, a common cash safe lineup in the GPP and winning. He's playing some off-the-wall shit like I did to win a couple weeks ago where I had 2 running backs in my lineup from the same team, and one of them was the captain, and it won. And I only split with 30 people out of 80,000. So there's your difference, and I made $1 look like $550. So
it's something that we refer to a lot, and I was a question that was posed to me earlier today. A term that we use, chalk. I'm going to explain what chalk means. So Phil, you'll hear Phil talk about ownership projections, and ownership projections is everything when it comes to daily fantasy. So when we're getting ready to tell you to play a cash lineup or to play a GPP, those are big factors, right? So a chalk player is someone who is astronomically high owned. So like you go into the week and we're like, this person's on the chalkboard, right? So this is just a term that DFS uses because these people are going to be high owned and these are people that we're going to watch. So like Phil just said, kind of going back to Tommy's comment, looking pretty. So somebody that's pretty is pretty much a chalk player. It's somebody that's high owned, and that's you want the chalkiest of the chalkiest in your cash lineup. So if tomorrow is Amon-Ra, right? Jared Goff is probably a chalky player too in a cash lineup, even though you still want him in a GPP. We're not saying don't play chalk players in GPP, but you can't go chalk. So like in a perfect world, if you can afford it, you can't have Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian Watson, and Aaron Jones and
expect to win.
And expect to win because you're not getting different. Because everybody, if that was the case and everybody could afford it, everybody would have that same lineup, right? So if it's these players that, like Phil said, the pretty players, the guys that you're in like the showdown what we had the other night, like Jamar Chase. 80% ownership, right? Like everybody knows who Jamar Chase off the street is, right? Like everybody knows who Jamar Chase is. He's a chalk player. Joe Burrow, chalk player. So
makes you feel safe owning him, having him. He's gonna be chalk because everybody feels safe.
You circle him on the chalkboard. That's why.
Just know that you have to get different somewhere. You can have him in the lineup, but you gotta get different somewhere else. But then there's also times where you'll hear me or Cody talk about getting different by fading them, by not playing them at all is also a way to get different because who's going to do that, right? I don't think this slate tomorrow is one where you can fade somebody like Amon-Ra and Jared Goff because for one, like Jay said earlier, everybody on the fucking slate's coming in with a Q tag. So you don't even know, like this is not the slate to try to get like super different. It's more along the lines of trying to figure out who's going to be playing first of all. And what's their snap count, how bad's their injury, and getting maybe a punt play or two in there, you know, your Jaden Reed or your James Mitchell tight end 3 in there with like some studs that you know, like Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Josh Reynolds, Aaron Jones, James Mitchell, Jaden Reed. Run the lineup. It's a way to do it. Or getting different in your stack, like we were talking about. You know, 3-3, 4-2, 4 Detroit players and 2 Green Bay players. You know, that's typically what's been winning under analysis. But if you want to get different and do like 5-1, I'll tell you right now, there's not going to be anybody doing 5 Green Bay players and 1 Detroit player. Because what 5 Green Bay players are you going to pick? Right? So if you do that, you're different. Yeah, if you do that, you're different.
Jair Alexander possibly?
Or being even uglier, 5 Green Bay players and your 1 Detroit player is Detroit's defense. Who's going to do that? You're expecting 5 players to score and yet a defense still do good? We've seen it happen. It happens quite often than you would expect, and somebody wins the $1 million doing that shit, and you're looking at them like, how the hell you play the opposing team defense against 5 players? How are all 5 of them going to do good and this defense do good? And
the game plays slow.
6 sacks.
The game plays slow.
You got field goal kickers on the other side of some players. You got sacks. You got fumbles. You got pick sixes. If a defense is pick six,
you got fullback running back kicks 85 yards.
Yep. Also, that's something to know. A kickoff return gives the defense points. So if the punt returner runs a ball back and scores, it gives
defense and special teams.
Defense the
defense
point.
And special teams. Yeah.
So on DraftKings, if you got Detroit's defense and their punt returner runs back one for a touchdown, the punt returner gets points, and so does Detroit's defense. It's crazy. So things can happen where the defense.
Is Khalif Raymond still the punt returner in Detroit?
Know. He could be, but he's worth throwing darts at. If you're trying to look to get different and have exposure, he's going to be low owned. He's on the field 35% of the time, and he's getting 20% targets.
Khalif Raymond is kick returner and punt returner, according to the depth chart in Detroit.
And he can run one back. And then Detroit's defense gets points, and so does Khalif Raymond.
And I believe Phil's punt play, Jaden Reed, is the kick returner on the punt returner for Green Bay also. I will check to confirm.
Those are good plays that have in on showdowns because they get that extra opportunity to score from punt returns. But they don't get any points for a good punt return. They only get points for
a touchdown.
Scoring on that punt return.
Yeah, he is a
So if
Jade
they
Reed.
get the ball and they run it all the way down to the 1, it didn't help you. You need him to score.
That's why we saw that with when Tyreek Hill was making a name for himself, scoring, blowing up points for the defense and for himself, getting touchdowns and touchdowns.
And then if he gets a couple passes or maybe another offensive touchdown, then there's your slate breaker right there.
Yep.
It's quick and it's ugly and it's different, and somebody wins $1 million doing it every week.
I think Jordan Love comes down to earth tomorrow, and I think the Lions win. Taking the Lions.
I agree. I wonder what the line is. What's the over-under first? So over-under is 46. That's a much higher line than I thought. I'm probably going to go under on that.
Minus 1.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go under 46 on that.
I like Detroit tomorrow. I'm rooting for Detroit, though. I think I'm a little biased. They've been going through it for so many years. I'm just hoping for that city, for the whole team to be successful. But I really do like what they're doing also on defense, man. Hutchinson is playing great.
CJ Gardner-Johnson, though, so.
Losing him definitely is going to hurt on the back end, but is safety or a corner for Detroit?
Safety, yeah.
Safety.
But he played last week?
He was put on IR on the 27th as of the 20th. That's today, actually. He was put on the IR. Let me do CJ Gardner-Johnson. CJ Gardner. I don't know if he played last week.
Oh, I think the way to attack Detroit is definitely
he did not play last week. They put him on IR.
Definitely attack Detroit through the air. That's the way to get them. Definitely attack Green Bay through the air or the ground as a way to get to them. And then also Green Bay's not doing very well running or passing. So
I like the safety play that they got there in Detroit. Walker and Brian Branch.
I like their defense tomorrow.
Brian Branch, hell of a pick.
Yeah, Branch
can even run Detroit's defense as your captain tomorrow and be different.
I'm going to be super different. I think that's probably a good get as different as you can get.
That's a super different pick.
Let's say, and that is, coming in at 3% owned.
But Jordan Love has found a way to get into the end zone each and every week, which kind of hurts a little bit. That play is only that. I mean, what is it? 2-3 touchdowns each week.
Let's be real. The Saints held them to 0 points all the way.
And the Saints have a really good defense.
And they fucked it up, man. They just gave up. I think they lost momentum when Carr went down. It kind of threw the team off and allowed him to come back. But if you consider that, Detroit could do the same exact thing to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Let's see. Dontavian Wicks. The fuck are you talking about?
Oh, that Wicks, we saw him the other day, Phil, when we were watching the game. He's like a running back, I believe.
Wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's a pump play, that's for sure. But I think the exposures are kind of, off right now. I think it's a little too early to check the exposures. Definitely tomorrow, closer to game time, be looking to get different. I think you could safely play Amon-Ra captain in cash and do that, or Jared Goff in cash as your captain, either one.
Yeah, and you guys got questions, ask us for projections tomorrow, and we'll try to give you as much as we can.
Correct. Join the Facebook group if you're not in there and ask the questions in there.
It's in the top of the chat, and I can drop it again at the bottom.
Subscribe to the YouTube page. Got a new logo posted up.
New logo in play.
Here's the Facebook.
Trying to get nice.
Yeah, so we had it look good for you guys. We said on Saturday that we had some new stuff coming. Our logo and everything, so we wanted to make sure that everybody got that.
I think it is pinned in the comment section. I think it's pinned at the top.
Yes, it is at the top. Yeah, I made sure I put it at the top. So
I mean, if anybody got any questions, you can ask them now. You can ask them later. Exposure is definitely, if it's an exposure type question, probably save it for tomorrow because they're definitely going to change from now till then.
Pay attention to Monty tomorrow, for real, for real.
Monty and Aaron Jones. Because Aaron Jones is a captain winner for Green Bay more often than anybody else on their team. So, and that's been with A.J. Dillon in the backfield. So it could be, you know, with the offensive line missing all those aspects for Detroit, he could be that person again.
This is in Green Bay.
He's gonna be, you know, his ownership's gonna be low as of right now.
Jared Goff won't put up points in Green Bay.
It's 10%, but
much.
That's a way to get different off of Amon-Ra and the captain.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. So,
everyone,
we'll check in with you guys on Saturday to get y'all ready for Sunday's games.
Appreciate y'all coming in.
Shout out to Taylor Swift. Shout out to Taylor Swift. Kelsey and Swift
Shout
connection.
Out Taylor Swift. She's gonna come in on the show and give us 400K overnight. You know, make us rich.
We need 400% projections.
Marketing exposure.
Yes.
It'd probably be like 4 million for us if she signed.
Hey, everybody, tell your girlfriends
mid.
and everything that we had that Taylor Swift is gonna drop in.
Drop in. We're gonna have Kelsey on the show. Yeah.
My man said I just wanted to give her a friendship bracelet. She's mid.
She's mid. She ain't got no riz.
Yeah.
No riz. Trying to get hip to the lingo everybody. Nowadays.
All right, y'all. Well, we out. Peace.
Have a good night.
That's right.